Hi, I'm Marcy, owner and founder of Lofty Looks Beauty Bar, and today we're going to talk about eye shapes, styling, and mapping. I've been seeing that a lot of new artists actually struggle with determining what map fits what client and what eye shape, facial features, and everything. We have to understand that when mapping facial features, eye shape, eye size, lash health, all play factors in determining what is going to look best on who and what lashes we should use. So today we're going to take a dive into styling and mapping for what shape eyes. So first, let's talk about the eye shapes. So the most common eye shape is going to be almond. An almond eye literally looks like a football. It is the most common, and you can really do any type of mapping with it, but we'll find out later what looks best on who based on facial features. The next shape eye that you have is going to be round. Okay, a round shaped eye is where the eyes are bigger and you can see a lot of white surrounding the pupil. Next, we have the downturned eye. And I just put that line in the middle for the eye plane. As you can see, the outer corners actually go downward. And the opposite of a downturned eye is, of course, we have our upturned eyes. That's where the outer corner actually goes upward. Another variation of eye shapes and facial features you would want to say is going to be wide, is a wide set eye. And that's when, let me just draw a little person here. This is where the eyes actually sit wider on the face. Usually when you're looking at a face, you can be able to put the same length of an eye in between the eyes. That tells you that it's pretty normal. But with someone with wide turn eyes, this space in between their eyes is actually larger than one of their eyes. So we consider it wide set. And then, like I said, with wide set, you also have a narrow set. So with a narrow set eye, the eyes are actually closer than the length of one of their eyes, and it sits close on their face. So with all of these eye shapes, we have to go with what maps are going to look best on who. So let's say someone has almond eyes, but they have a narrow set. If someone has almond eyes and they have a narrow set eye, that means, of course, their eye shape is almond and their eyes sit close on the face. So what the map that we would like to use on them is actually going to be, I would do something like a cat eye or a kitten eye. And that's where we start with short lengths on the inner corner. So we'll do something like 7, 8, 9. And then for me, I like to kind of stretch out these middle parts. So we'll do 10, 11, and then as we get to the outer corners, we're going to increase here 14 and then a little bit back to 12. So what this is going to do is going to create the eye to be a little bit longer, and it's going to create a cat eye, kitten eye effect, and it's going to balance out their face because the attention is here when they don't have any lashes. The attention is right in the middle of their face because of the narrow set eyes. But if we add length to the outer edges of their eyes, it's going to naturally widen their face, giving them a very nice, sleek look. Okay, so if I had someone with, let's say, round and downturned eyes. If I had someone with a round and a downturned eyes, what I would want to do is stay away from the outer edge of their eye as far as like using long lengths, because with a downturned eye you have to be very careful. If you use long lengths, if you do a cat eye or a kitten eye on someone who has downturned eyes, then if you don't do the kitten eye right, but if you do it on somebody who has downturned eyes, it's just going to kind of point that out, that downturn even more, and it's going to make them look droopy. So with somebody with round eyes and they're a little downturn, I'm going to go for something like a natural eye, and that's going to be short lengths, because another thing about round eyes, the eyes are already big. You don't want to make them look bigger. So me personally, I like to stay away from long lengths when I'm using, when I have somebody with round eyes. I'm going to stay in the short length era, you know? So we're going to use shorties on somebody with a round eye. It's going to look like this. So again, we'll start as small as 7, 8, 9, and then our longest length we're going to use is going to be right outside of their pupil in a very small area. So we may do something like a 12 here, back down to 11, and then a 9. And then here we'll use a 10 for the beginning of their pupil through their pupil. Then, like I said, 12 on the very outer edge, back to 11, down to 9. And that's how I would style a round eye. Now, depending on their eyelid and everything, I would use something more of a relaxed curl. So I would do either C or B curl. And then on someone with almond and a narrow set eye, I would use something like CC or C curl. You really can't go wrong with either one. So yes, these are just a few examples of mapping and styling for what eyes. Something that I struggled with, especially as a beginner lash artist, is knowing what maps to use on what eyes. It was very hard because it wasn't taught in the class, but through trial and error, educating myself and investing in things like ebooks and online courses where I learned advanced styling, I learned what maps to use on what eyes. There's so many different maps out there. You just have to find what works for you and your clients. And I promise you, the more that you customize your sets and get them to match your client's face perfectly, the more repeat business you're gonna get. So until next time, thanks for tuning in, and make sure that you subscribe, like this video, send it to someone, and I'll see you next time.